Hello, my name is Ben.
And my name's Andrew.
And welcome to the Too Vague Podcast with traffic on the 2s and 7s. No, there's no traffic on the...
There's too many 2s and 7s, no traffic.
One word, two hosts, stories, trivia, and video games. Not to confuse anyone, we're not going to be reporting any traffic. I mean, is traffic bad in Portland?
Compared to other places, no, but you can always complain about something.
This is true.
If you're trying to go to the airport between 3 p.m. and 7, it's not that fun.
Last time I took the light rail or the train or whatever.
Oh, yeah. The MAX, yeah.
Yeah. We're not talking about that today.
That'd be too straightforward.
Instead, we're going to come at it from a different angle before we get into the word. What we've been up to, you've got a lot of cool stuff going on, don't you?
I got a lot of cool stuff. Yep, it's all happening. First thing is I'm going to do a webinar about helping people get out of neurodivergent, like autistic type of burnout, which is an extra kind of burnout, but everybody gets burnout. So I think it's probably applicable, but it's for an organization called WISE, which is based in Washington State. And they do a lot of education stuff for people who work with helping with job stuff and all the things that are helpful for people with disabilities. So I get to do a presentation to share some of my knowledge with people that might be able to use that knowledge. So that's cool. That's coming up in January.
Yeah.
And then I've got, with Microcosm Publishing, I've got a couple of projects coming out in the next year.
Is one of those the ADHD book?
Yes, the ADHD FAQ. We're really doing the editing now. We're really going into, and I've got to do a lot of work on that this month and send it back to the editors, and then they'll be like, this is great. And then it goes to wherever.
Is that what they're going to do? I mean, are you?
I think so. I'm just going to be positive. Sure, I'm sharing my knowledge and I still have more to learn. And there have been moments where I think, if I look at my rough draft, will I just hate it? But then like the first note that came from the editor was like, oh, this is really great. And then, here's some things. And I'm like, oh, it started off with this is really great. So, and then another thing, I've already got a tie-in product finished with that, which is like a deck of cards that ADHD coping skills deck, which came with some help from Microcosm's best-selling Dr. Faith Harper. She's pretty cool. I'm working on more projects, but in the future, there'll be something that has to do with autistic comedians. And
not to pivot to what I've been up to, but I got a lot of scheduling done for upcoming shows. That game I talked about on a couple of episodes back called Black Jacket? Got one of the developers, I believe the producer, to be on the show. And I suggested the word blackjack, but then he came back and he said, I like the word variety. That's going to be a good word to do.
Ooh.
And then I've got Karen from IGDA Foundation.
IGDA.
We're going to be recording.
Right. You did like a mini chat with her already, right?
I did an interview for, I believe it was the day 2 episode of PAX. Holly, and then Eric is going to do ARC with me.
You're going to raid some arcs.
No, it's not the Ark of the Covenant.
You're going to do some trigonometry, some arc tangents.
I pick a lot of words that are like geometry adjacent for Eric's shows, and he hates math. So. It's like, hey, should I mention this thing in derivative? And it was like,
oh,
I will be very angry if you do.
It'd be like, can we talk about football?
Football or video games? Mostly video games these days. So
I know. But he used to work for like Sports Illustrated, right?
Yeah.
I'm just talking up Eric so you don't feel so bad about not answering the phone yesterday. But
Eric and I talked about Arc Raiders, which I briefly mentioned to you and forced you to watch the trailer. And then also Ball Pit, which you had some comments about.
Yeah, I did, because the narration of the trailer was very, very tongue-in-cheek. Because, it's a busting stuff with balls kind of game, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like Breakout.
The different kinds of balls. And he's just talking about balls and balls and balls. Yeah, I like Breakout. And then he's like, and you can fuse balls. And he's talking about ball fusion. And I'm like, is this safe for work?
Can we just stop saying balls?
Talking about your balls a lot. But, I mean, it's like balls.
It's a ball-heavy game. Heavy balls.
It's a ball-heavy game, yeah.
And since I am like 12 mentally, it makes me laugh every time I think of balls.
I think that's very targeted. They're like, you know what? Let's get some 12-year-olds playing.
The commercial is, anyway.
The commercial, yeah. I'm like, I feel like it threads the needle of hitting that. It's like, yeah, but they're really not going over the top with it.
And the game it's not focused on stories or necessarily humor. It's just a really fun game with meta progression where you level up your characters and then you get certain powers or attributes that help you in the portion where you're harvesting resources so you can build buildings that will impact your game. It is so good. And each character has a unique ball propulsion.
Overhand, underhand, sidearm, the volleyball serve.
There's one hero that you launch your balls from the back. There's one that's a pair of people. And so when you aim, they split so they cross and stuff. And then there's one where they arc and they'll explode into smaller versions.
I'm tempted to go on a tangent right here because Dungeon Clawler, they released a new claw. It's a slingshot. And I was like, what? I'd just updated all the apps on my phone. And I've been playing Dungeon Clawler. It's my new go-to.
Yeah.
We already talked about it. So people go back to whatever that episode is, listen to it. But yeah, no, now they got a slingshot and I had to figure out what that does.
I should check it out then because it's been a while.
You should check it out. So yeah, they added some new stuff and I set it down for a while and I came back to it. It's a good thing to do whilst CJ is avoiding going to sleep. She wants to have a parent in the room. She will fall asleep in her crib.
Okay.
But she just needs somebody in the room while she's doing it. I sing one song and then I roll over and I just goof off on my phone until the breathing gets slow and even and regular. And I can sneak out.
You should bore her with pictures. Look, it's the Washington Monument. It's like,
oh no, she will. That's the thing she wants to do is look at all the pictures on people's phones.
Oh, okay. All right. So
mostly she likes to see pictures of herself, but she likes it. Yeah, I know. Anyway, yeah, I'm like, look, Cecily, that's the bean. Yep, it's shiny from Chicago.
It's a shiny, shiny thing. It's not like the Picasso, though. It's never going to be like that. The thing that used to represent Chicago was that Picasso.
Yeah, yeah.
And then now
it's like, it's totally, that's like a ghost town. Everybody's over at Millennium Park looking at the bean.
Who wants to see the bean?
And I'm like, those people don't have any culture.
No.
Made by that guy that trademarked his own pigment of black. I'm not making that up, but I can't remember his name.
Maybe we should trademark our own color here on the podcast.
Anish Kapoor. Yeah, he's the one who made the bean.
Wasn't he killed by Biggie Smalls or something?
No. Anish Kapoor. No, you're thinking of somebody else. Yeah.
Okay.
Thinking of somebody else. Cloudgate. That's the name of the sculpture. Cloudgate. But it looks like a big, shiny chrome bean. Apparently, it's a very interesting thing to assemble and build. Several months back, there was this story that Anish Kapoor enclosed an infant in the bean. And now the infant has reached the age of maturity and they're like, release the man from the bean. There's a man trapped in the bean. There's nobody trapped in the bean.
Maybe a baby carcass. Sounds a lot like Five Nights at Freddy's, where they used to eat the people and then they would die in the costume.
So one of the things that he did is he patented the super black pigment. And then that is the most black of any pigment, and then, makes it expensive for other artists to use. They don't like that. So he calls it the black is black. And then another artist created a pink pigment that he called the pinkest pink. And it stipulates clearly that Anish Kapoor is not allowed to purchase that pigment. There's a little inside baseball with the art people.
It kind of reminds me of the situation in Arc Raiders that's going on right now. This AI takes over the world, this Skynet-ish kind of thing going on, and it drives the humans underground, and then you got to go up top, salvage, and then that's how you build your weapons and improve your workshops and all sorts of things. You got a little rooster that collects garbage for you. It doesn't go with you on the expedition.
But it's just there at your campsite collecting garbage.
Exactly. It just collects scraps and stuff for you. And you can level up your rooster.
Bring home a big sheet of discarded pegboard or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he does. Like you do if you're a rooster.
Or my friend Joe.
Maybe he's a trained rooster. But anyway, in this game, you fight against the robots on the surface, but it's multiplayer. So there are people on the surface who will kill you and take all your stuff. There was an interesting sociological kind of study that someone did. It's not official or anything. PC players are less likely. Like 75% of PC players assist you in the battle against the robots, and console players do not.
That is just an interesting thing. And I'm like, okay,
I think there's kind of an interesting community built in PC land that's not built at all in console players. And there's more anonymity in consoles than there is in PC, I think.
And then the PC players probably are like, I set up a lot of shit on my computer. I did a lot of work to get this. I have this ethic of you don't mess with other people's stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas the console player is like, I just downloaded it and here I go.
Initially, I was trying to come up with the pinkest pink kind of approach to exacting my revenge. You can have grenades, and as you walk around in buildings and stuff looking for things, you'll have various robots attack you in buildings and attack you outside, these like drone-like things. But you could potentially also have humans. What I was doing was I was priming my grenade and getting it ready so when they shot me and tried to kill me, it would explode. And it's just like, that's just a little too much. What I've been doing instead is I've just been going out. You've got a thing called a safe pocket, and you can take one item. You lose all your stuff when you die, robots or otherwise. But your safe pocket, it guarantees one item. So what I've been doing is going out with nothing and just scavenging for stuff. And that's it. Because you gain experience by looking through stuff.
Okay.
If you just engage in the whole thing of prying stuff open and looking at it and don't take anything, you get experience, and you get experience for being on the surface. And the experience you get for killing someone, it's significant, but it's not as significant as searching all the containers and looking into all the stuff. So it's like, why are you doing it? You're just doing it to be a jerk, essentially. I've been trying that to get my frustration out, that people will, when people shoot you or trap you or whatever.
Yeah. And then they don't get anything.
They just don't get anything. It's like, you killed me. That's fine, but you get nothing.
Whatever garbage I found, you have that now.
In part, it's a game of stealth, but you get bonuses and parts and stuff for taking down robots, so you don't always want to go without a gun. It reminds me a lot of Pacific Drive.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're going out and you're scavenging stuff and putting them in your car. But I mean, in this, you just put them on your backpack and then you go back down below. Why do I want to spend a lot of money on a gun when it's just going to get eventually taken away from me because I suck? I'm playing this game mostly for my ARK episode with Eric.
Yeah.
So I've also been playing this other game called Abra-Cooking-Dabra. Did you watch the trailer?
I did. I was like, is this a cooking game or a card game?
So I got a review code. It looked like it was promising. I'm starting to like card games a lot as far as a type of game that keeps my interest, playing things strategically and so on and so forth. So I thought, oh yeah, this is totally up my alley. It wasn't. There was a time when I liked Mahjong. There was a game called Shanghai, I think, where you picked tiles off of a pile and you had to match them up and stuff.
Yeah.
It feels like that kind of level of mundanity.
I'd say boringness.
We'll just say it's mundane gameplay. It's sort of a puzzle where you're getting cards and putting them in things and using items to cook stuff, and then you pass it off to those people waiting on the left side of the screen. But it's just not fun, especially compared to something like Arcane Eats, where there's not a limitation of like, you got to use this sauce and you got to put this thing and then put this card on top of this card to make the sandwich and then put the sandwich in the grill and then you're done. It's just too regimented and it's not fun to me. I played it for a couple hours. Graphically, I mean, it's beautiful looking. And it will be for some people. I mean, in fact, it's got pretty good positive reviews. And I don't know what's so Abra-Cooking-Dabra about it. It doesn't feel very magic.
So that's why I saw the trailer and I was like, I don't get it.
The same here. It's just like, this is not necessarily fun. I got to be in a mood for a card game. But there's certain card games. I'm into Blatro. I'm not a big poker fan, but it's fun. There's a card part of Starvaders. There's a card part of the Bazaar, which I've been playing. There are deck builders that I do like, but this just wasn't it. There is some randomness to the cards you get, but the problem with that is if you need to cook a dish for someone on the left side, you got to cook a specific thing, and then you don't have the vinegar, so you got to find the vinegar. Whereas with something like Arcane Eats, you combine the cards in such a way to be creative, and then the people who eat the dishes, they're looking for something, but it's pretty flexible about what you can play, and this is not that. It's like make the sandwich or whatever. Here's the other thing that I read on Steam about it. It said, make famous British cooking dishes. I'm like, ugh, yikes.
Yeah. I feel like that was something mentioned British cooking in the trailer, and I was like, huh.
Fry up some tomatoes and put some, not Vegemite, they don't eat Vegemite, but they eat something that's similar to Vegemite, right? There's some sort of a weird paste.
Probably. I don't know. I haven't eaten at a British restaurant.
If you ever have a chance to go to the Cornish Pasty Company, so good.
I got to walk it back because I have been to an English pub themed bar.
Are you talking about Frog and Firkin or whatever? Wasn't that English pub themed?
A place like that. Yeah, I've been to a place like that and had some pretty good pies, savory pies. So maybe I could lay off the idea of British cuisine. No, it's fine. It's just, it's like, what is American cuisine,
Burgers and hot dogs.
Nothing more American than meats you can walk around with.
So that's my mini review of Abra-Cooking-Dabra. It's not for me, but it may be for some people. As far as a card game, you've got to play these cards specifically on top of each other in order to make the dishes. So, like I said, not my cup of tea, English themed, like literally tea. But anyway, so let's get into the word this week. The Brian Eno inspired word.
Brian Eno. You mean oblique?
The word this week is oblique. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it.
I love it. We're
using the Googles, we over here in Arizona. What is the Scrabble score? Let's get that out of the
way. I don't have that on mine.
Not anymore? We don't have to find the Scrabble score. Oblique, we'll start with the adjective, neither parallel nor at a right angle to a specified or implied line slanting.
There you go.
We sat on the settee. What?
The settee.
Settee. What is a settee?
You sat on the settee. It's something, like the chaise longue, the ottoman, the settee. It's like in that family of couch-adjacent furniture.
Without the back?
I don't know. I can only look up one word at a time, but I'm like, yeah, that's something a pretentious person has in their living room.
Why put it in Google? Gosh darn it. We sat on the settee oblique to the fireplace. The second one listed under the first definition is not explicit or direct in addressing a point. Is he making an oblique attack on his colleagues? Geometry of a line, plane, figure, or surface inclined at other than a right angle. Geometry, acute or obtuse of an angle. There's a lot of geometry here.
Oblique angles, yeah, gotcha.
Of a cone, cylinder, etc., with an axis not perpendicular to the plane of its base. Anatomy, neither parallel nor perpendicular to the long axis of the body or limb, like the oblique muscles, I'm guessing.
Yeah, an oblique abdominal muscle is that example. Yeah, it's perfect.
I got to work on my obliques.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 2 in grammar, denoting any case other than the nominative or vocative.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Oh, and
do you have something to say about that before we move on?
I'm not all that familiar on grammatical cases because English is not very robust in that department, so I forget. We just have like nominative and possessive. Other languages, the nouns decline.
Vocative is relating to or denoting a case of nouns, pronouns, adjectives in Latin and other languages used in addressing or invoking a person or thing.
Right. So you're talking to somebody. English doesn't have a different noun case for when I'm talking to you. We just use the same word form as in the nominative, where I'm just talking about this. Like, whereas I'd be like, that's a thing over there would be nominative. And then you bring me the thingum. I just created a suffix to make English have a vocative case.
Gotcha.
I'm going to start doing it. Yeah. Latin was overly complex. That's why nobody speaks it anymore. They're just like, it takes forever to get through a sentence. Why don't we just speak French instead?
I don't want to speak French.
Just let the ends of all the words trail off. You don't want to speak French? You don't have to.
I was just happy for the fact that I know how to say vocative.
Yes.
Number 3, not explicit or done in a direct way, not unlike the show. Then let's move on to the noun, a muscle neither...
Same thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's specifically a muscle. Yep.
Yeah.
Not particular. Yeah, we got that.
There's this one, which is British English, which it's another term for slash.
Like the slash symbol?
I'm thinking like Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, him too.
It's like a cut.
I'm going to oblique you? No. It's definition to an oblique stroke in printing or writing used between alternatives and slash or. That's the slash. So if a British person, if they're like reading you out the URL they want you to go to, they'll say partlyrobot.com oblique nerd emergencies to find out about the comics anthology that I'm putting together, which was another project I forgot to talk about. So I got too many projects.
You sent me a zine that I haven't had a chance to crack open yet. What was that?
Oh, the help? That one?
Right.
That is a special limited edition. The people that either subscribe to my Patreon at the I mail you stuff every month level or other esteemed creators that I trade with. You're an esteemed creator that I trade with.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I didn't have a chance to crack it open yet, but I saw it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've been doing a daily comics panel on my Instagram. Yeah, I'm trying to just keep up doing comics. So this is a strategy that a guy actually who used to make a comic strip for the Arizona Daily Wildcat back in the 20th century, Chris Silla, he lives in Portland now, and I ran into him at a comics thing, and I was like, hey, we used to go to the same comic shop, and he's a cool dude. And he's like, yeah, you know what I do? I do a panel every day as just a workout before I do anything else. And sometimes it's sucky and whatever. And then I do my other work later. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I've been trying to do a panel a day. And so this help story was one of those stories. Is basically Drew and Booger Bear, my heroes or alter egos, whatever, talking about if you have a disability, like an invisible disability, especially, like what kind of, is the government going to help you out? And this is a bad year to ask that question. Yes, there are things the government's supposed to do, but even the government doesn't know what it's doing right now. But there are other things, especially like making meaningful connections with other people.
Right.
And sort of finding people who understand your stuff is actually a very important part of your support network to make.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of go at it more obliquely through the comic because I have to make it funny and illustrate it. This comic is also like this is like a sneak preview of what I'm going to be doing for the Nerd Emergencies anthology. I've got a lot of cool submissions for that and need to find time to actually go through and start assembling it into a big thing. But that's like a bigger project. And I got some really cool stuff from people from like all over the world. I got Canada represented. I got New Zealand and France. And I'm like, what? This is cool.
That's awesome. That's really great.
And, some people from around here. So that was an oblique little aside. My comics are often oblique. I feel like the things I want to say, just saying them straight out, people might not want to hear it.
It's a good strategy creatively, too.
Yeah, because then, I like to explore. I like to walk around ideas because, sometimes just the straightforward, blunt thing isn't very nuanced. And there's always like more to see. And if you kind of come at it from the side, you got an opportunity to get a broader understanding, I think. I'm the kind of guy that likes to read books, so whatever.
There's a t-shirt I saw online that it said, I like coffee, reading books, and I have 3 friends.
Yeah, I got more than 3.
One last thing on the definition before we go.
We haven't even got past the definition. Jeez.
I was going to look at the Google Ngram viewer. Yeah, what do you think?
Man, people haven't been using it as much in this last century.
Unfortunately, no. I think it's a Brian Eno hatred thing.
It started going down before. Like, if we actually look at it, there's this kind of bump up. Brian Eno probably caused it to dip in the 70s, actually. It's just, yeah, it kind of peaked up there during the Civil War, 1861.
So I'm going to flip the script a little bit here. I'm going to say, what is the first thing you think of me when you think of the word oblique? Because when I think of you, I think of Brian Eno's Oblique Strategies deck of cards. How much do you know about the background of that and how Brian Eno came up with that? My knowledge of Oblique Strategies is there's sort of a thing for creativity that you're supposed to think about it and ponder. Is that incorrect, or what is the background of Oblique Strategies? Do you know?
I believe sort of co-created with multimedia artist Peter Schmidt. And I think it was originally designed when like Brian Eno was working on an album project with some of us, and he's like, here are these strategies that are going to guide us through getting past writer's block and creative block. And so, yeah, they came up with this card set of over 100 worthwhile dilemmas.
So that's the one that you have. I thought originally it was like 56.
The original Peter Schmidt one that was called The Thoughts Behind the Thoughts, that had a box containing 55 sentences, letterpress printed. And then Eno had been sort of doing a similar thing, handwritten. So they were both doing their own thing, and then they came together and, co-wrote Oblique Strategies.
Okay. Because I watched a documentary on Devo recently. I think it's on one of the streaming channels. It's really interesting. It's like their early stuff and their background and how they came to be and so on and so forth. It doesn't go through all their albums or what they're doing currently. Are We Not Men? We Are Devo was produced by Brian Eno.
Right.
And there's a little bit in the documentary, Mark Mothersbaugh especially was making fun of the Oblique Strategies stuff because he would come with his Oblique Strategies and he was like, ugh.
Well, here, let me pull you an Oblique Strategy and see what you're thinking. Now, it seems like there's been several editions and like they all kind of vary. So I think what I have is the 2001 edition. Okay, so here's an Oblique Strategy. Make something implied more definite. That sounds kind of oblique.
Okay.
Oh, here's another one. Water.
That's what it is? It's water?
Yeah, just water. I like this one. Give way to your worst impulse. But here's where I first found out about the Oblique Strategies from the film Slacker, which is Richard Linklater's first feature-length movie. And that, one of the characters is walking around with the deck and offers Oblique Strategies. Kind of neat, but it's like, yeah, this is totally right up Richard Linklater's alley. He probably lives and breathes by, let's go out and make something cinematic out of everyday life. Then push it till it becomes kind of surreal, but also meaningful.
I'm going to counter your Oblique Strategies with some deep thoughts by Jack Handey.
Absolutely.
If your kid makes one of those little homemade guitars out of a cigar box and rubber bands, don't let him just play it once or twice, then throw it away. Make him practice every day for about 3 hours a day. Later, he'll thank you.
There was another one. If trees could scream, would we be so cavalier about cutting them down? Maybe, if they screamed all the time and for no reason.
The one that I always remember is my father always told us that laughter was the best medicine, which is why several of us died of dysentery.
Oh no, I need a lot of laughter right now, so I like my medicine.
If you ever reach total enlightenment while you're drinking a beer, I bet it makes beer shoot out your nose.
That's a good one. No, Jack Handey, yeah, he was not messing around.
Whenever I read a good book, it's like the author's right there in your room talking to you, which is why I don't like to read good books.
Get at him.
Honestly, these are kind of comedic oblique strategies.
Or oblique scenarios, at least. Yeah, like how do you approach a problem with this? Here's one. What would your closest friend do? I mean, the oblique strategies are just little like things to get you to start thinking. Because sometimes if you're directly trying to solve a problem, then you just kind of get frozen up on maybe the details that aren't being helpful for you. So
you get lost in the minutia of the details, I think.
You get lost in the minutia. So like I think the oblique strategies can function as a nice little reset. Get your brain to pop over to something.
But you have to be open to it, unlike Devo.
I would never try to tell Devo what to do.
I think their creativity level is already maxed out. I don't think they needed to reset at all. That's part of what I loved about the band. It's just they were so out there. So when did you start using these oblique strategies?
Not that long ago. I don't know about using. I'm just like, this set was printed in 2001, so you can't just pick it up at Barnes & Noble. I mean, maybe you could back in 2001, but these ones I got from the Brian Eno website.
Does he come out with new ones?
He's done a few editions, but this one's like the 5th edition. I don't know what they're doing. I think he's probably just got whoever runs his website has a stack of them, and every once in a while some nerd orders them, and they're like, that will be £60, please.
So the whole cards thing with your ADHD and the tie-in, was that inspired in part by this Brian Eno thing, or is it not related?
No, well, it is related in the sense that I knew that these existed and they were like in the background of my mind. I mean, what happened is basically, the publisher has figured out with other of their titles that, doing an accompanying card deck has been a good seller for them.
Okay.
And then, what happened was all of a sudden I got put on this text thread and I was like, huh? It turned into, they wanted me to write it because I was doing the ADHD book. And I was like, okie doke. So then I had to figure out, how do I write a deck of cards of like ADHD coping skills?
Yeah.
And then I realized that one of the problems with ADHD is that the brain is working differently than the majority of people. So the regular everyday advice on how to get things done can tend to hit a little wrong because you've repeatedly gotten the same advice of like, oh, well, why don't you just get a planner and make a list? And, you have to do it in a way that works with the brain of the person that's receiving that information.
Right.
So I took some inspiration from the oblique strategy idea of, okay, somebody who's turning to this deck is possibly in a moment of very distracted frustration. How do I write this in a way that will be approachable and helpful and not just shut them off? One of the things that I did was like in the instructions, and I think I basically said, if you hit a card and it pisses you off, just pick a different card. You're not ready for that one, and that's okay. Like, that's the basically thing is like, these are just to help you jumpstart your brain into productive directions.
Okay. So in that sense, it's not oblique. It's a kind of a focused sort of thing. Can they live in the same universe?
It's like basically trying to walk that fine line between giving a practical solution, but presenting it in a way that doesn't cause a knee-jerk response or trigger something that's associated with a past disappointment or trauma. Because that's one of the things is that, like, if you go through your whole life not realizing that, there's a thing with how my brain works that makes it harder for me to do things the standard accepted way. And then you're like, this is a failing in me. I'm not a good enough person. Like, it brings up a lot of shame. Some people just get really adverse reaction. If I was working harder to be like a regular person, I would be successful. And it's like, well, how about we try to work with who you are? There are ways that we can circumvent some of these patterns. They're not exactly from the ADHD itself, but from the conflict of living in the modern world, which the irony of everything is that if we're looking at a different context, I don't want to say a less capitalist focused thing because I don't want to come off as one of those radicals that wears a frog costume. I don't want to trigger your audience. No, there are the listeners you know about and the listeners you don't know about, like.
This is true. I think I understand what you're saying.
The whole thing about, like, we've got this model of you need to be super productive between 9 and 5 and be able to fit into that sort of corporate model. And that is what a productive human does. Whereas someone with ADHD might be like, I really am on fire between 10 and 11 a.m. and then between 7 p.m. and midnight. And the rest of the day, it doesn't work for me. There's so many different ways to be, and there's so many reasons why struggles come up. But a lot of people with ADHD have this history of getting called out. Sometimes you can be super focused and everything that you're doing is like boosting your norepinephrine and your dopamine so that it's helping you stay on focus. It's helping you get through this. And so, like, at crunch time, a lot of times somebody with ADHD can pull off what seem like miracles because they're like, all the brain chemicals are firing the way I need them to, and I'm getting all this stuff done. But then they'll be like, but for the last 7 weeks, you've been really underperforming. It's just the way that our modern culture tracks productivity and performance. Whereas like in a different setting, you can have the flexibility in your time. Like, oh, we're following a more natural rhythm of the seasons, rhythm of the days. Oh yeah, we actually need somebody to be awake between sundown and midnight. You know, that guy might not do a whole lot during the afternoon, but he's actually making sure we don't get our camp invaded in the middle of the night. You know, there's this kind of thing where like we have these variations in some of our population. It is useful, but we've sort of homogenized human expectations to this really specific narrow bandwidth.
It's not a deck of solutions or anything. It's a deck of strategies to utilize or things to think about when you're coming up with your own plan, because everyone is different.
Well, it's sort of like, you know, different things like, what do you need to hear right now? It's like, do you need to hear that it's okay to realize that, oh, this isn't going to happen right now. I don't have to do it. There's one thing is like, sometimes you got to just take a thing off your list to do. There's a lot of things about like figuring out what is realistic to expect of yourself. My cousin referred to it as like perfect day syndrome. Whereas like you can have a day where you're just on fire and you knock everything out of the park. And then you sort of like expect yourself to have that kind of productivity every day. You're going to feel like a failure the rest of the days because no, that day was really awesome. But you need to recognize, when do you need downtime? How are you going to get that? How are you going to present it to a boss or you people you're working with and be like, okay, look, I'll get this done, but I'm going to need to have to work on it at hours that work around, these scheduling things. We're in the 21st century and sometimes make that work for you and sometimes you can't.
Recognizing your limitations in various areas are beneficial because you can also tweak things to be more effective. If you understand what these things are and why you're behaving the way you are, well, then that's beneficial because then you can think about these things and move forward.
And also just so you'd be like, oh, how can I set up my environment that helps me stay on track? How can I set up relationships with people? How can I be honest with myself? There is like this weird like shame dynamic where people sense like, oh, I'm not a valid person because I'm not doing those person things. And then it just sort of feeds on itself. And you're like, nope, you're a valid person.
That's the thing too, is also understanding yourself so you can communicate that with people in a way that doesn't pigeonhole you as you're this.
There's that too. Yeah.
I'd like to say that people are accepting of neurodivergent folks, but it seems like with the way, I don't want to blame this on government or certain perspectives, but it is something that as someone who's neurodivergent, I'm sure you struggle with daily. Living that life and people understanding where you're at is recognizing that you've got it and what it is and what it isn't, explaining that to people in a way. It's not necessarily your job to explain it, but it's an understanding thing.
Yeah.
And I think you want to communicate that with people who are receptive to it, not so much other people who are just stereotyping.
Yeah, this feeling that like, a lot of what, I try to be able to do is present sort of a public representation. And, in my writing, I'm like trying to make things approachable, like these ideas, because it's very difficult to, understand, you can just say, oh, someone's neurodivergent, their brain works differently. But then to actually understand what that means is very difficult.
Well, it means different things to different people too. Brains working differently.
Yeah, so that's the thing. There's not one way that brains work differently, but there is this strain amongst humans that they want to know what they can expect, and they sort of expect a certain kind of conformity from everyone.
Right.
That creates a tension. And it's like, how do we relieve this tension between the people that just need to have everything clamped down and regular and the people that just can't do it? We're kind of in weird, scary times where, the one guy likes to try to make people feel like Tylenol and vaccines have ruined their children.
The guy who killed a bear and dragged the carcass away. That guy?
I mean, he's done a lot of stuff. He's had some personal family trauma in his own life, so. But
I mean, it's not an excuse necessarily. It's an explanation.
I don't like a lot of things that happened or are happening, but also I'm like, well, I really am a nerd who likes science, and I'm just like, no, the actual science doesn't say these things.
Right.
So I have to do a little more work Well, yeah, no, that is the thing that, like you were talking about the pigeonholing. It's like, well, this is somebody who is trying to lean into that stereotyping, and he's really only looking at, I don't know what he's looking at.
I don't know either.
I don't know what he's looking at, but he's definitely saying, this is no way to be a Kennedy. If you want to be a Kennedy, you don't take Tylenol or vaccines.
Maybe it's because I know you. You're pretty much the only openly autistic or the most openly autistic person that I know. I just thought of you as a creative individual. I didn't put all this stuff onto it or anything. I just thought you were a really cool, creative person. And
thank you.
If you get rid of that, so if you cure whatever this thing is, you're making someone into something that they're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's frustrating in that sense. It's not something that to be cured. Without autism, we wouldn't have awesome Talking Heads music.
Absolutely.
I don't know about that. But you know what I mean. It's
I do know what you mean.
I don't mean to blanket statement, but it's like there are levels. Everyone's brain works differently, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. And I think, there are some people that are far more impaired by some of the stuff. And like that is what is scary to people, like thinking about, someone who has this intellectual disability or other like impairments where they can't control their body. This literally does happen with some people, like higher support needs, autistic people who like aren't able to use their language or, aren't able to speak. And it's like a lot of things are going on with that. And some of it is just like they don't have the muscle control. It's not that they're not able to understand language.
Right.
But that's the assumption that gets made. And then some of them are able to learn how to communicate in other ways. And, there's a lot of the spellers out there who use spelling boards. So they like don't quite have the fine motor to do a keyboard. Some of them get the fine motor to do a keyboard. Some of them are just pointing at letters on board and they'll have an assistant that sort of helps them through that. There's so many varieties, but the more I learn about people and other ways of being, the more I just feel like, let's just be okay. Like we don't have to be afraid of difference. Yeah, I think it's like what people see is when they see someone so different or impaired that makes them scared for themselves. Like it's a very selfish reaction. Like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to think about what it must be like to be like that.
How can you show empathy for your fellow man if you're not doing that on a regular basis? Put that on one of your oblique strategies.
How do you show empathy if you're afraid of people who are different than you?
Exactly. You may have a lack of understanding, but that's something that you can correct.
Fear makes it hard to get to understanding, though.
Yeah.
Boy, we're getting real oblique here. It's great. Because another one of my themes is that responding to stuff with curiosity rather than anger is a better way to find out what's really going on. And so, as Yoda said, fear leads to anger.
Anger leads to hate.
Hate leads to the dark side. So anyway, so it's like, so if you get to a fear, so like I think that's it. Like I'm tying Yoda into this, like, something's like kind of makes me scared. I'm like, I can either get angry or I can get curious. And sometimes it's really hard
when your emotions are.
Yeah. And like, I've been doing a lot of work on figuring out how to keep my emotions in balance.
I had panic and anxiety and depression. And one of the things that I've learned over dealing with this for 30 years or whatever is realizing when you're having an emotional reaction as quickly as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And then not distract yourself from the thought, but more divert it to something else. It's like, okay, I can do this, and this about this situation. So let me do something about it instead of fearing that situation, something that's productive somehow.
So and I'm going to be like, that is a really good strategy. I have like a similar but different. I'm going to go oblique from that. I'll have that huge feeling, the doom feeling or whatever it is. And what I've realized is like, oh yeah, feel it, recognize it, and also realize that it's a feeling and it will pass if you let yourself feel it. And also maybe like take a look at what else is going on. Because like I've learned that, 3:30 in the afternoon, I will often feel like total crap. If I read the wrong news article, I will spiral. And it's like, this has to do partly with the rhythms of my daily energy. It's like part of the self-knowledge. Yeah, so I can like ask myself these questions. So sometimes I don't even need to get to the likelihood part. It's like that, oh, why am I feeling this right now? Because I can't handle thinking about that thing. This is just what my body is going to do.
Are you thinking about coming up with a deck for the autistic things, or is that different than ADHD intrinsically?
I will say that I am under contract to come up with such a thing. My publisher was like, yeah, why don't you do this one too? And I'm like, okay, cool. It's going to have to be different. And I'm going to have to think. You just reminded me of another thing on my to-do list. But yeah, it's all right. Yeah, I do have an autism coping skills deck in the pipeline. And so like I do have some notes somewhere, and I've written a lot already. I would feel like I'm going to revisit my older writings and be like, okay, what can I glean from that will go nicely on a little playing card?
I think you already have most of it done with your A is for Autistic stuff. A lot of that is in there.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, if I go in there and just sort of like crystallize some of those into easy chunks, I'm like, I think it's going to be great. It's just finding the time to do it and trying not to feel like I have to do everything all at the same time.
That's sensory overload kind of stuff, right? That's in that territory.
And it's like cognitive overload. Yeah. Okay, cognitive overload. Your brain is thinking too hard. So that's another good reason why it's good to be oblique about stuff sometimes. My whole brain doesn't need to think about this problem right now. I do this with, I was talking about my daily comics. I'm doing this one like longer story that has to do with my monkey skull character and Drew and Booger Bear, and it's going to be kind of like that sort of free association one that you made you're probably going to show up in the monkey skull story like you did in the that one from
Oh, really? Okay.
25 years ago. If that's okay. I just thought of that right now. I was like, yeah, shiny shirt Ben's going to show up. Ooh, maybe soon. I don't know. It's in the back of my mind. I'm like, do I know what's going to happen next? No. Do I need to know what's going to happen next? No, I can just work on lettering this panel and then trust that this process will get me to where I want to be. And then sometimes I do have a more worked out script of something, and I'm like, okay, this week I'm working on this specific thing, and it's helpful. So anyway, that's one of my, I guess, my ADHD tips that I'm going to just give away. Break big tasks into smaller tasks.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be like, you don't have to do the whole thing right now. Make it a lot of smaller things and just do one of the smaller things. And then try to do another smaller thing every day. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got all these pages of stuff. Sometime in the next year, I'm going to have like a standalone full-length comic of my random stuff that I want to put out. But I'm going at it obliquely.
Maybe you should look into doing talks for businesses.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed is you got this big task. The management says, do this. You guys figure it out. And everyone's focused on the task so much that they don't think about the pieces of the task and how to build that structure in a way that can be created and done effectively. It's more about the thing, the end goal. And maybe that has to do with time crunches and whatnot. But I mean, there is some benefit in thinking about how this thing fits together so you can attack the design in a way that makes sense and that's extra productive.
I'm writing that note down. I'm going to talk to my agent about that. I don't have an agent.
Give me a book deal.
Forget the book deal. Just give me a TED Talk. I'll get there.
There we go.
Any too vague podcast listener could nominate me for a TED Talk.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I think that's how they work. People just nominate people for TED Talks.
Nora is on the case. Nora and Stacy, both, probably.
Oh, yeah? They're going to just nominate me for a TED Talk. Just give me a topic. Say, Andrew can talk about this. And then I'll be like, I can? I'm like, yeah, I probably can. I like to do a deep research dive.
I'm sure we can talk about this forever because I'm very interested in everything that you're doing. But what is your first thought about me when you think of the word oblique?
It's more of a recent thought where you just sort of threw out, you were thinking of like pitching a t-shirt design and you're like, what about left of oblique? And I was like, yeah. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm like, yeah. And I was like, yep, that sounds cool. Left of oblique. That's pretty vague.
That is. Where is it? It's left of oblique.
I want to throw in east of Eden, west of hell, and left of oblique. I'm like, that's too many directions.
You're missing the Cardinals.
Bringing John Steinbeck into it, that guy. That guy. Let's just cut him some slack.
Well, I was expecting you to say drawing, so...
Ben's drawing oblique stuff again.
My stories of drafting and things, but that's...
Drafting.
I think of perspective drawing.
Perspective. So. I see. You mentioned the perspective drawing... But mostly, I remember you just drawing your like more organic shapes in the coffee shop, the free flowing Ben doodles.
Oh yeah.
That's right. You learned some of the drafting and the entry level architecture.
Exactly. Back when drafting was a possible profession. We had a really great teacher named Mr. Kleiss, and in the third class, he would have us draw something, and then he would have a metalworking or some sort of project, mostly metalworking, because he also taught shop class. We did a drawing of a birdhouse and the different materials that we would use, and then we would build it. We did a casting thing where we made like a miniature anvil out of zinc or something. Machine surfaced one of the sides, gave it an interesting pattern, did something on the bottom. But it was really formative, and part of it was tying those drawings to something that was a thing instead of just a drawing.
Yeah.
So we did all these orthographic projections, and oblique was one of the drawing types that we did. There's various perspectives when it comes to drawing. A lot of people know the 2-point perspective and the 1-point perspective. There are things that are curvilinear that you can draw with arcs, but oblique is one of the types of projections. The projections are cabinet and cavalier, and those are the two that I associate with video games, are those side-scrolling beat-em-ups that have sort of a three-dimensional field that you traverse. There are things where you go up and down, but it's in a very distinct style where the flat, you're facing it, and then the things like the doors and the whatnot and the walls, if you walk down the screen, it's at an angle, right? So that's kind of the perspective, is that cavalier drawing in the oblique perspective that I think of. And this is to tie it into video games. What is your knowledge of that oblique perspective? Because a lot of people confuse oblique and isometric, and they're both ways of representing a three-dimensional space.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia article right now. I'm like, are you sure this isn't Qbert?
Okay, so you see the picture, right, that has the different style breakdowns. So something like, Qbert is isometric. There are a number of games. There's Marble Madness.
This is the article on oblique projection. Oh, cabinet projection is over here. Like cavalier projection.
So it's basically the front surface is accurate to your dimensions.
Oh, okay. I got it.
One of the things that makes a cavalier drawing interesting is the fact that you should foreshorten to kind of achieve a perspective to show depth.
Yeah.
But in the cavalier, you represent it exactly the same dimension. So it looks a little weird because you can't have a line that comes off the side that's exactly the same length, right?
Right.
So you've got foreshortened lines in the cabinet, and the cavalier looks a little weird.
So it doesn't have anything to do with little spaniels.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, no, it does not.
Or the basketball team, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
There's a basketball team of spaniels? I forgot Cleveland had a basketball team.
So the one game that I'm going to mention, I could mention a lot of side-scrolling beat-em-ups. And actually, there's like games that I remember from the arcade. Like, do you remember Double Dragon?
Double Dragon, yep.
Yeah, Double Dragon was in that perspective. And there's a really interesting history with Double Dragon and River City.
I'm visualizing the oblique in Double Dragon.
There's a recent game that just came out, and I'll probably bring it up with Holly, hoping that she's into all comics and not just DC. We'll see. We'll feel that out.
I should have talked to Holly more about comics, but
there is a Batman joke on her Instagram.
There is, and it sets you up to talk about my nemesis. I got it. Yeah.
Yep.
But you don't have to. You don't have to make your episode with Holly about me.
If we're talking Batman, we're definitely going to talk about Christopher Nolan.
Talk about my feud.
Your feud. Your one-way feud. Your Ray.
My one-way feud where I'm just like,
Here's the force vector for Andrew, and here is a point which represents Christopher Nolan's feeling for Andrew.
That's right. Christopher Nolan
right there.
Has no idea. It's really not personal. I'm not going to challenge Christopher Nolan to a cage match or anything. Don't worry.
Speaking of movies, did you see that thing I sent to you recently about how they put a RoboCop statue in Detroit?
Oh, I didn't look at it closely, but you sent me that to me.
I mean, it makes sense that they got Rocky in Philadelphia. Anyway, let me get back on topic. There is a game that I'm going to mention on Holly's show probably. It's a Marvel side-scrolling beat-em-up that they just created. Marvel Cosmic Invasion, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the arcade kind of feeling game, but there is sort of a meta progression where you're leveling up your characters, which give you other moves and more health and things as you play through it. It's got a somewhat large cast of characters, probably about 20 different heroes you can unlock and be, including my favorite, She-Hulk.
I thought you were going to say Beta Ray Bill, but
She-Hulk. Beta Ray Bill was a close second. And they made her, like, when something happened and she got freakishly huge and she wasn't her normal Jen Walters stature like she was for a while. I want to say it's like invincible. It was a run that happened within the last 10 years.
I am so out of the loop on a lot of stuff. So.
Okay. She kind of reverted to a form of She-Hulk that was more like Bruce Banner when he turned into the Hulk.
Uh-huh.
That's the model that they base it off of as far as her hugeness, instead of your sexy workout, whatever. Still muscular. But yeah, Beta Ray Bill also very cool.
Beta Ray Bill. Yeah.
But that game is in that perspective, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It's got a lot of replayability, but side-scrolling beat-em-ups, it has that perspective, right? The cabinet, the cavalier, the oblique.
So you scroll sideways, you beat them up.
And how you tell where the flying enemies are in the environment is you look at the shadows on the ground.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
Makes sense. Because if you're jumping and you try and hit something and there's no shadow, well then,
you're going to miss.
Yeah, exactly. And also with those games, another way that they kind of trick the eye to make it look more three-dimensional is by a method they call parallax scrolling. If it's closer to you, it moves faster, like 2 dimensions, than that it does further away.
Kind of like how Mount Hood is always the same place on the horizon, no matter where I am in town.
That's exactly it.
It's a Portland reference.
The other things in the environment, when you're walking, I guess, adjacent to it and you look over there, they move at a speed. And the further they are in the distance, the slower those different levels move. The one game that I want to mention that is the first game I think of when I think of this perspective, the oblique perspective, is the game Paperboy.
Paperboy. Oh, yeah.
Atari's Paperboy. So this kind of has an interesting history, Paperboy. Are you familiar with the game itself? Did you play it in the arcades?
I remember that you're on a bike and you're throwing papers at people's houses.
There's a commercial recently that kind of reminds me of Paperboy. I don't know what it's for, but he's a kid, he's riding a bike and he's throwing papers. It sounds like it's, going really well, but then you pull back and you see all the broken windows and whatever. But that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to throw papers into mailboxes. You get bonus points there, or throw it so it hits the door. And since you're moving, it's kind of tricky because the faster you move, the more difficult it is to figure out where it's going to go. There are enemies that come out at you, things like joggers and cars and stuff that you have to avoid, jumps that you can take that are on the sidewalk or whatever. There's remote control cars. Just all sorts of things that you've got to do to deliver the paper. And you try not to hit any of the windows on houses that you have to deliver to. There's like 20 houses on 2 streets, one side of the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as you're delivering these papers, if you come across a house that isn't subscribed, then you just throw as many papers as you can. And just destroy
bust all the windows.
You get bonus points for destroying the windows on the house that don't subscribe to your paper. But then at the end, there's a little target range sort of thing. And as you go along, you pick up bundles of papers, so you refill your papers. Initially, it was pitched at a brainstorming session by game designer Dave Ralston. And he just had that idea of a Paperboy. In 1983, I wasn't delivering papers at that point in time. I think I started back in 84, 85. But, it was a job. It was like an unsung hero kind of thing. You would, especially in the Chicago area where it was wintry.
Yeah. You
had to ride your bike through the snow, shoveled or not, and deliver the papers. You would put them in little bags and throw them.
That's right.
it did teach me a lot about working.
Yeah. And did you do the Roger Ebert paper or the Gene Siskel paper?
I did a local, the Daily Herald was the main paper. I delivered both the Roger Ebert and the Gene Siskel, but there were only 2 subscriptions to the Gene Siskel and the majority of the ones for the Roger Ebert. That's the Tribune, right? Tribune is Roger Ebert. Sometimes is Gene Siskel.
Yeah, I think that's how it was. Yeah, I'm like, it's been so long. But that explains their whole dynamic. Right?
Yeah, totally.
It's like, oh, no wonder Gene's a whiny little... No.
Just a little bitter.
Roger sells more paper than I do.
And plus, it's like periodical format. The fold is wrong. It's not a magazine.
Yeah. Don't get us started.
But anyway, so the guy came up with that idea, which is a very 80s kind of idea. He essentially drew up the concept on a transparency, like what you do as a teacher, right? If you're drawing
as you did as a teacher back before.
Now you do it on a computer.
Everything's slide decks now. It's ridiculous. I know what you're talking about. I've used that. Yeah.
So based on that idea, the artist Will Noble came up with all sorts of cast members for the Paperboy and who would chase after you and stuff. But it was ridiculous. Like, were things like snails and a duck wearing a business suit and scientists playing pianos, things of that nature. They tested it and it didn't test well with audiences because it was so goofy. So what they ended up doing was they decided to, a marketing executive said, why don't you focus on like making it more real? They had Rusty Daw, who took over the project. They changed the characters to bullies, alcoholics, burglars, skateboarders, like actual real things.
Mm-hmm.
They left the Wolfman and the Grim Reaper in there. You know, you got to have it a little bit goofy, right?
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about the game as you're playing, it's got handlebars like on a BMX bike. Like that's how you steer. And then you throw your papers with the buttons. As you're jumping, you can pull up on the handlebars, and that will allow you to get some extra height. It was one of my favorite, really fun games, had a very unique style, and the whole feel of that oblique perspective was kind of unique for that time. I mean, a steering, driving game. It made a lot of sense for what you were doing on a bicycle. It was a lot of fun. And then you could accelerate yourself by using the turn like a motorcycle. Slow down, speed up. If you're going really fast, though, the timing was kind of tricky. Do you remember playing that game at all in the arcades or no?
I know I played it. Yeah.
I might be misquoting the control scheme because it's been so long since I played it.
No, I think I had the handlebars, yeah.
I remember the handlebars and I remember the throwing the papers, but being so disappointed at playing it on the NES and other game systems. I don't think I got it for the Atari Lynx, which was the handheld they put out back in the 90s. It was a color handheld. They had a lot of really good translations of Atari games, but I don't think I ever bought Paperboy. That's my video game / drafting connection.
Nice. Thank you for illustrating in my mind exactly what you meant by the oblique perspective or projection. Yeah, I know I got it now.
As opposed to isometric.
Isometric, which would be Zaxxon.
Congo Bongo or Qbert or...
Yeah, I get it now. Okay.
Crystal Castles.
Yeah.
So that is the show.
That is the show. All right.
Unless you have any video games you want to mention.
No, that's cool. I'm good.
You're not going to mention Adventure, which has no perspective other than top down?
No, I already talked about Adventure before. That's fine.
What are your final thoughts on the word oblique other than buy my cool stuff?
Buy all my stuff. Yeah. Oh, you should really check out my oblique author photo.
Your final thought is check out the website.
Because my photo is a bit oblique. My romancing the plant pose. My barista, Lauren, was also my photographer. I was like, hey, I need an author photo, and you're weird and will probably do it if I ask. So. And it worked out. And then she climbed up on the counter with my phone and...
She got the right perspective.
She got the right perspective.
I'll check that out for a fun treat, not to get oblique. I'm not going to be Shiny Shirt Ben again, right?
No, I don't know.
I'm just going to be podcasting Ben.
Yeah, maybe.
Dispense my wisdom via podcast on the 7s and 2s. So the last thing if you want to draw something in 3 dimensions, I highly recommend oblique drawing because it's a fun way to, I don't know. It is a word that has a duality in my head because that's what I do on the Too Vague podcast. It's kind of an oblique, it's a conversation, but that's part of natural conversation in my head is interpreting and approaching questions and discussion in a way that is interesting, not only to me, but the other person, or I attempt to do that.
An exploration around a whole idea.
And that is exactly the show, an exploration around whatever the word is.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a little structure, but we don't shy away from veering. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. And good luck to you and all your endeavors in the deck creation universe.
The deck creation, the book creation, I'll just keep doing things.
On the other side of the cards, you should make some sort of a collectible Pokemon-esque kind of game that you can play.
I don't think I have anything to do with the graphic design on this one, but
well,
which is good because I have other stuff to do.
And you don't want to get sued by Nintendo. Is that a Squirtle?
Mm-hmm. I wake up every morning thinking, oh God, am I going to get sued by Nintendo today?
I think it's more likely that Christopher Nolan would, but
Christopher Nolan and Nintendo will file a class action against me for saying rude things about him on the internet. No, not about Chris Nolan as a person.
No, just as an artist.
Just no. I mean, it's like my objections are so petty. I'm like, okay, it's really more about me. I get it.
Here's the thing. All artists know what they like and know how they want to create something. And of course they're going to like someone and not like other people. It's just natural.
And it's not like
it's
think
not
he's bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not like, I'm like, I get it. 3 dreams deep. Come on. That's not how dreams work, Christopher Nolan.
Bullet holes in a window that go backwards. We won't talk about that either.
They invert. Yeah, no, I'm already messing with my timeline enough.
Okay. Well, let's get that back into place here. Thank you, audience, for joining us on this week's episode of the Too Vague podcast. My name is Ben.
My name's Andrew.
And we've been your hosts. Have a wonderful night. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Quit licking yourself.
What?
Oh, mango.
Mango, okay. I was like, said you weren't going to look at the Google Meet screen.